Good evening, and welcome along to a special best-of compilation from Robin Elliott tonight. On the way shortly, we'll be chatting to Anthony Toner about his big song Sailor Town. He'll also perform that live. We'll be meeting Neighbours legend Alan Fletcher, aka Dr. Carl Kennedy. He'll be telling us all about his favourite moments in the top Australian soap. But to begin with, let's meet a TV and music legend who's actually coming to Belfast. He plays at the Waterfront Hall on the 16th of June along with his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. Here is Jools Holland. Jools, you're busy as always, and I know it's 30 years now you've been doing the Later with Jools Holland show, and of course you've had many great guests on the show over the years. I would imagine it's pretty difficult to choose your all-time favourites.
It would. If you were to ask me that, it's a bit like saying who's your favourite child, and you can't say one without upsetting the others. But there have been sort of great moments. I was thinking, things with Amy Winehouse was a really sort of special thing. The other day we did a thing with the new singer Celeste that was really sort of great. There's always sort of great moments. If you work with some of the legends who you've grown up with, I mean, then like admiring from your childhood. With Paul McCartney or something, you come and play with him. It's like a sort of an unbelievable thing that you're then playing with these people you've grown up with. So there's all of those things, but you get this and the excitement of hearing new music all the time. So I've been incredibly lucky to be sort of connected to that for now. So it's been 30 years of the Later with Jools Holland. It's 30 years of the Hootenanny and 30 Happy New Years and 40 years since the Tube. So incredible. That I'm looking forward to having we're planning a 100-year celebration. So I hope everybody's going to be there. We're selling the tickets now. I've realised people now, when we started, times were sort of different. I think people now go out much less than they do. But for the first time this year, we're going to be doing it with an audience again, because we did it in the last 2 years. We've done it with no audience because of the COVID thing. And the first time, with no audience, absolutely no audience at all. I mean, we had Tom Jones and Celeste actually doing a duet. A fantastic thing. The band finishes. It's like one of the biggest things you've ever heard. And then there's just this sort of three cameramen applauding. But there we go. But mind you, so it was. The only thing it did mean is that we had the biggest audience we'd ever had, because nobody was allowed to go out anywhere, so they all stayed in and watched us. And I think people do go out less now. I think it's easier for a lot of people just to stay in and like go watch the telly and have us on telling you this Happy New Year.
Now, is there anybody that you would love to have on the show that you haven't had yet?
Well, I think the two, we've been very fortunate because we get people on the way up, and we've had a lot of people. Sadly, but it's like their last performance. But we've been very lucky in having great people, amazing people. Bob Dylan hasn't been on, and it's not through, because we do 6 shows at the beginning of the year, 6 at the end of the year. They don't have the money to fly people in. It's just like whoever happens to be in the country at that time. So it's quite a small window. But for instance, we've never had Bob Dylan on. He's never been in the country when we're on. I don't know if he'd come on anyway, but he'd be a person. And the other one is Stevie Wonder, because again, but he doesn't. If he comes, he's in Britain maybe sort of one day every sort of 4 years or something. So the idea that he'll be here at the same time as us is tricky. But we've had amazing people. Of those, as an example, Gladys Knight. It's one of my favourite moments. Who's one of my favourite singers of all time. I grew up listening to her. I saw her at Lewisham Odeon when I was 14, and then I saw her again in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was on tour with Squeeze, and it was, both times were just amazing. But she was one of my favourites, and she came on and she was going to do something with the band, and then at the last minute she said, I just want to do something at the piano, and she sat next to me at the piano, and she did this thing with her voice that she does on a record. She has this little crack in her voice, and she did the crack thing, and I almost like sort of fell off my piano stool. But I can't believe that here I am with Gladys, and where it was one. So yeah, been very fortunate, and again very fortunate because my hearing's all right, so I can hear what's going on.
So how many years have you been in the show for?
It's just 28 years.
28 years. So now, you were in 1988.
That's right.
You did play a different character, didn't you?
That's right. So I played Greg Cooper for 3 weeks. So if we thought about that, we added that time in, forgot about the time I was out of the show. You could say I was there for a lot longer. Yeah, a 3-week little role. I loved it. I played a mechanic.
Yeah.
Got to work with Kylie and a few others, and all my mates too. Stephen Dennis was there, and Alan Dale. It was just a lovely time. But I was doing theatre at the time.
Yeah.
And they did actually say to me, would you do Greg Cooper,
Yeah.
would you play that character for a year?
Right.
And I said, no, look, I'm doing Shakespeare, I'll forget about that. Imagine if I'd done it though, because Neighbours was so popular then. I might have done a year on Neighbours then, and I would have been a pop star.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Of course, as everybody did back in 1988, didn't
Yes,
they?
yeah.
When Dr. Carl came into the show, it was only a year contract as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, they're all year contracts. It's funny that I've had 28 one-year contracts.
And what would you say is the greatest Dr. Carl moment then? What's the big standout one that you'll always remember?
I have to say to you, because I love doing the comedy, right?
Yeah.
So obviously all the big dramas are amazing, all the affairs and everything. Episode 7000, Robin, my favourite episode ever. Carl Kennedy finds a scratch-it ticket that hasn't been scratched. He looks at it, it's worth $7,000. And this is a man who loves money, right? He's very excited, but he loses the ticket. Yeah. So he has to traipse all around Erinsborough, retracing his steps to try and find it. When he gets to Toadie's house, Toadie's having a naturalist lunch. Everyone's nude inside. So Carl has to nude up to go in and find his ticket, which he does find stuck to Toadie's backside. It's high drama, dramatic comedy. It's very funny. Still remains my favourite episode.
It's all urban renewal and apartment blocks. Summer is fading, winter will be coming soon. The walls in the city have a lot to say about the UVF and the IRA. It's cold by the river, but the sky is full of stars. But these walls say nothing about who I am when I'm singing in the garden at the Rotterdam, doing Brown-Eyed Girl and whiskey in the jar. And I know they're tearing it down street by street. Look out below, there goes the ground beneath your feet. Elaine's mother thinks I'm some kind of crook. She meets me at the door with a dirty look. My welcome round there has started to wear thin. 'Cause I promised everybody I would knuckle down, but my grades weren't good enough this time round. All my time runs out in the end. And I know they're tearing it down street by street. Look out below, there goes the ground beneath your feet. Me, I can't wait to be rid of school, but Elaine's got a place at Liverpool. By the time September comes, she'll be gone. And she says she'll text me every day, but that's something she feels she has to say. She'll call me once at Christmas, then move on. Me and Elaine, we've been hanging around in what was once sailor time.
So do you know what I'm dying to know? Whatever happened to Elaine?
Oh, Elaine. Well, the hard truth is that it's almost entirely fictional.
Wow, really?
Well, there were. I wrote the song after doing a gig with the Ronnie Greer Blues Band, a very early gig with them in the Rotterdam, and it was late summer, and I remember looking out from the Rotterdam onto the Clarendon dock, and there were loads of kids outside with little Spanish guitars and bottles of wine and everything, and I remember thinking, it's that time of year when they're all going to be going their separate ways. You know, some of them are going to go to university, some of them are going back to repeat A-levels or do A-levels, and some of them are going to go out into the world of work. And that sense of young people at that age about to kind of, you know, they're all going to split. So that was the kind of the sense of the song. And there were other things that were in my head, the Rotterdam especially, the kind of the history around that whole area. And there's a wonderful poet from Sailortown called John Campbell,
who I think I met once, because Jerry used to read his poems out on the radio all the time.
They really lend themselves to being read aloud. And he had a collection that Blackstaff put out years ago called Saturday Night in York Street. And I'd always loved them. And they were kind of in my head around that whole time as well. So the whole thing kind of, it all became part of where the song came from. But there's no specific Elaine, unfortunately.
Ah. So there we go, Anthony Toner telling us all about his big hit, Sailortown. On the way shortly, I'll be chatting to music legend Tommy Fleming. Also, the one and only Chesney Hawkes will be telling us all about his big hit from the early 1990s. And Beth Nielsen Chapman will reveal the first song that she ever wrote. Before that, let's have some great local music now. And we'll be chatting to singer-songwriter Eddie Booth in just a minute after we hear one of his very own songs. Here's Eddie and A Better Life.
If I was a building or something of meaning, there'd be billions spent to rebuild me. If I was a sculptor or maybe an author with words to last eternity. But I am who I am, and who I am, who I am is me. Sing me a better life, paint me a better dream, save me from the hell of living. Dance me a better beat of something more complete. Save me from this make-believe life I'm living. Are you believing? Are you existing? Are you living? Are you you? Sing me a better life, paint me a better dream, save me from the hell I'm living. Dance me a better beat of something more complete. Save me from this make-believe life I'm living. Sing me a better life, paint me a better dream, save me from the hell I'm living. I'm living. I'm living. Are you living?
Of course, your own life has been one hell of a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I remember you from years back. You were a successful businessman, as well as a successful singer-songwriter back in the day as well. But after all that success, things happened and all went wrong, didn't it?
Yeah, it seemed to take a turn for the surreal. Even when I look back at it now, it's hard
comprehend what actually went wrong or what happened. Just family problems and things like that there, and then ended up on the streets for 15 weeks. Slept in a few people's homes at the start, and then didn't want to take my troubles to our people's doors, and ended up sleeping on the streets. I think it was about 14 weeks or something like that there, which was really difficult. Really difficult.
How do you survive on the streets for 14 weeks?
Very difficult. I mean, when I look back on it, even just water, a drink of water in the middle of the night. So you learn to take a wee bottle and fill it up with water during the day, so you've got something to drink. If you get hunger pangs, there's not much you can do because people are all away when the food's gone. But it's difficult. Not cleaning, not washing, or not changing clothes for weeks is. You start to hate yourself also, and you hide. Homelessness, and it's a big thing that's going on at the moment. You know, and most homeless people that were like me, you don't want to embarrass your family or people to know, especially when I had to re-rest on, as you know, Robin, and that there. So you hide away out of shame, and then you're the one in the shadows, frightened, and you're frightened of somebody seeing you or reporting you. So you're always moved. It's like you can't fully rest properly. You know?
Then, of course, there's a danger out there on the streets as well, and you were nearly killed, weren't you?
I was beat up and left for dead in Crawfordsburg, of all places, you know, and I got a severe beating by a few people. I don't even know why, what it was about, to be honest with you. They hit me in the head with a bottle, and I remember that was the worst night of my life because my father's birthday was on the 22nd of December, and that's when it happened. And he had died 6 years previously. And I remember just sitting on the bench in Crawfordsburg and looking at the ocean and thinking, what's the point in this? And I nearly got on and walked in the sea. I did get to the sea edge, but all I done was wash the blood on my face and regrouped.
How do you pick yourself up from something like that and get back into real life then?
Well, it is difficult. I took a job, and I have to say it was a friend, Doogie Beattie, that actually applied for a job for me in Toys R Us, and it was night shift, so there was no interview. They just employed me. And I felt sorry for the workers that were maybe working with me, because I'm sure I had a smell at times, you know. But I worked from 9 at night to 9 at the morning, and I then took the check that they gave me to cash converters, and I opened a bank account, used my own home address as if it was my address, because when you're homeless, if you have no address, there was no help in them days. It's changing for the better now with Simon Community and Salvation Army and all.
But we're still seeing a large amount of people on the streets of Belfast at the moment.
It's getting worse, Robin, and I think it's only going to, especially with the economical way things are going in the world at the moment, it's only going to get worse. And it's something dear to my heart, because you want to take them all home, and of course you can't. And there's different reasons for people being on the street. Not all drugs and not all alcohol. Mine was just family problems, and I'm sure there's others like this. And I see it when I'm out singing on Saturday nights and all. It's getting bigger, and bigger, and becoming a real crisis, you know.
Now, you've got this great back catalogue that features hundreds, maybe thousands of songs that you've written over the years. But do you remember the first song that you ever wrote?
Yes, I do, and it was not very good. Want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right, I played this for my mom while she was taking a nap, and she did not wake up. So that's a good indication that I had a little ways to go. Okay. Also, it only has one rhyme, and it only has one melody. It goes, in the month of May, cowboys used to say, let us lead the way. During the month of May, guess what? Cowboys used to say, let us lead the way.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for doing that.
Hey, I was 10, so it was pretty good. maybe 11. Maybe just 11, yeah.
And then, of course, you would have your own success. 1991 is a year you will never forget, all thanks to the song The One and Only. We mentioned Nick Kershaw wrote the song, of course, as well. So what's your memories of the year 1991 then?
Like being in the eye of a storm, to be quite honest with you, because one minute I was playing piano in pubs around my area, and the next minute I was selling out arenas and #1 all over the world. So it was a pretty crazy, very fast, meteoric rise. But, I have great memories of those times. I got to travel the world and see some amazing places and play some great places. And I had my little brother with me on the drums, and he's still on the drums with me now, playing when we do our live shows, but also doing the tremolo stuff.
And of course, there was the movie as well, Buddy Song, where you got to work with another legend, Roger Daltrey. What was that like?
Yeah, Roger was wonderful and gave me a lot of great advice in those days. Mainly, never come off the road. Always play live, which I took to heart. My dad always told me that as well. I toured with some great people in those days that said the same thing. Bryan Adams, Huey Lewis. I even met McCartney and George Harrison and Eric Clapton in those days. And everybody, without fail, said the same thing. Make sure you always play live. Stay on the road.
Yeah.
So I did, and it's kept me in good stead, I think.
So having all that fame at such a young age must have been great, but then comes the low points when you were dropped by your record label for whatever reason. That must have been a huge disappointment.
Yeah, I was so young, Robin, when that all happened. It's I forget kind of how young I was. I was basically, if you look at it, I was kind of like a washed-up pop star at 23, or supposedly. I don't believe that at all. But I literally 2 years before that, I was #1 and all over the world and everything, and it was it was crazy to think that. That it can happen in that way. But what's happened for me, I'm very glad and happy to have experienced those kind of highs and lows of the business, and I feel in life in a way. And I've actually mentored quite a few young artists over the years on the kind of downfalls in that, and the fact that none of it's real, if you know what I mean. So back in those days, obviously it was everything, to have success and hits and everything else. But for me now, priorities change, and of course that's what happens as you get older. And my priorities are my children and my wife, and just general happiness. And you don't realize what is actually important in life until you get a little older. But of course it affected me, in those days. I don't think I realized it at the time, and didn't really deal with it until later on in life. But glad to have actually been through it. As I said, it's life is a rich tapestry that we weave, and I just happened to experience quite an extreme thing at a very young age, which I think didn't define me. I made sure it didn't define me. I made sure that it helped me help other people as life goes on.
And is it true you got the big break when Phil Coulter walked into a bar and said, "I like him"?
That's true, actually. It was the Tower Bar in Westport, County Mayo. I was playing with a band called Jarrog, which was the Irish spelling is DEA Father RG for Red. There was 2 redheads in the band. It was kind of our traditional folk version of Simply Red. And so we decided to phonetically spell it by JARROG. And we put a father on the O, why I don't know. And we were doing gigs all over Mayo and Sligo in the west of Ireland. And I was singing at this festival in Westport in a marquee outside the Tower Bar. And Phil came in, he was working in Castle Bar. And he came in to have a pint, and he heard me singing. And it was funny. I was, 21? And he invited me along to play with his orchestra in the National Concert Hall in Dublin, in Cork Opera House. Wow. All of those great, University Concert Hall Limerick, and then on to do Carnegie Hall, Boston Symphony Hall, Massey Hall in San Francisco, all of those amazing venues, which is 30 something years ago. And he opened a huge door for me, massive door for me. There's been a lot of things have happened in those almost 32 years. I was going to say, there must be times when you're sitting there and you go, I can't actually believe that I'm here today, thinking about the car accident. Yeah. You put up a post on your social media recently with the head brace and the neck brace and stuff on. I never did that before, actually. Yeah. I kind of kept this. I've got to a point, I think, Robin, in my life where I it's not that I don't care. I have no problem in talking about things anymore. The accident was 24 years ago. And I never really talked about it. I never let anyone see what the results of that accident were. And I found a picture. I was doing a clear out there a few weeks ago. I found a picture of me in the frame, and I don't know where it was taken. And I just put up a post and said, this is what happened. Yeah. And it's funny the reaction I got to it and the amount of people that didn't know that it happened.
What was the kind of knock-on health effects this affect you today? Or?
But I mean, they're not really, I never call them health effects. I call them just kind of side effects of what happened. Yeah. You know, I've had a couple of operations over the years on my back. I can predict when it's going to rain. You know, I have a few metal plates in my back and in my neck, but I'm walking, I'm healthy, I'm trying to keep fit as much as I can.
Well, I saw that 8 o'clock this morning. My phone goes beep beep beep, and you're tagging me in a post, and I'm going, "There's Tommy in the gym at 8 o'clock." Was that just for my benefit this morning, or is that something you do every day?
My brother claims that I just get up, I get changed, get into the gym, take the picture, and go back to bed again. So no, I'm an early riser. I'm an early waker. As I get older, I think 4 and 5 hours sleep does me at this stage.
This city has a beat, it's vibrating. Underneath the skin, we're still healing. How would you like a drink with me? We can talk of life beyond the 7 seas. I got sick from bad dreams. I don't know why, something about the hatred or false peace. All your friends are in the happy bar. I'm left here alone with a night blinding scar. I'll never know why I keep going round and round in circles, chasing spirit nights. I'm waiting on street lights to take me back. I'll never know why I keep going round and round, no. All for these fights, no, I'll never know why. Taking it back to days I was fine. I was running up and down these streets, young and alive. Time made a different town with a different sign. Cold, oh, but it's worse in here than mine. I fear I'll never know why I keep going round and round in circles, days and spirit nights. I'm waiting on street lights to take me back. I'll never know why I keep going round and round, oh. Oh, for these fights, I've never seen it happening, 'cause it's all over so quickly. And you're just another one to do the same. 'Cause I know you're gonna leave, just leave the bottle at my feet. I'll never know why I keep going round and round in circles, seasons, spirit nights. I'm waiting on street lights to take me back. I'll never know why I keep going round and round, no. Oh, for these fights, I'll never know why I keep going round and round in circles, seasons, spirit nights. I'm still waiting on street lights to take me back. Oh, I'll never know why I keep going round and round. No, for these fights, no, I'll never know why.
So we love discovering new talent on Robin Elliott tonight, and that's a young lady who you're going to hear a lot more of in the future. That's Taylor Lally. Now, on the way shortly, I'll be chatting to music legend Dean Friedman. He's heading back to Belfast. We'll tell you all about that as well. You may remember Daniel James from being part of the duo Yell back in the early 1990s. He'll be telling us all about working with Simon Cowell and recording the big Yell hit Instant Replay. Also, Martine McCutcheon will be telling us about starring in the movie Love Actually. But before that, we're going to have some live music in the NVTV studios from Brian Houston, and then he's going to tell us a fabulous story about working with Chuck Berry. So here is Brian Houston and a song called These Days.
I was walking sad down North Street. I was thinking all about me and you. Well, I was skipping, I was dancing in the sunlight. I was on my way to buy St. Dominic's Preview. Oh, these days you're beginning to believe. Oh, these days you're sweeter than you used to be. Well, I asked the man behind the counter, is it an original? He shrugged me off and said, son, you know I don't really have a clue. But I took this 12 inches of vinyl under my left arm anyway, and I made my way up the street to make our secret rendezvous. Oh, these days I think you're starting to understand. Oh, these days your demons, they don't have the upper hand. Well, last night you cried yourself to sleep again. How many more nights are gonna have to end like this? Well, last night you cried yourself to sleep again, and this morning your kiss tastes like the ocean on my lips. Girl, you've a million moving mysteries in motion. You know the truth is like gold, it's so very, 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 very hard to find. And the past is like a riches whenever we cling to it. It don't bring you peace, it just makes you drunk and it leaves you blah, 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 blah. All these days I think you're starting to understand. All these days your demons, they don't have the upper hand. Well, last night you cried yourself to sleep again. How many more nights are gonna have to end like this? Well, last night you cried yourself to sleep again, and this morning your kiss tastes like the ocean on my lips. Girl, you're a million moving mysteries in motion. You know the truth is like gold, it's so very, 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 very hard to find. And the past is like a riches whenever we cling to it. It don't bring you peace, it just makes you drunk and it leaves you blah, 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 blah. All these days I think I got a brand new vision of you. All these days it's like you've been restored, refreshed and renewed. It's like I had a revival. It's like I had a revival, like an old time revival.
You've worked with many big names in the music industry as well. I want you to tell me a story you told me the last time about Chuck Berry, because that was pretty special, wasn't it?
Well, people don't believe that story's true. Well, actually, I forget. Oh, yeah. There was a guy who I'd known, Adam, you called him, and he was working at the waterfront, and they needed an opening act for Chuck Berry. So I was offered a lot of money to go down and open for Chuck Berry. But the truth is, I would have paid a lot of money to go and open for Chuck Berry. And so I went down there in, in a pink shirt and black suit and tried to look as 50s rock and roll as I could and opened for Chuck. And the guy who ran the waterfront at that point, he said to me, look, apparently Chuck's been asking for £500 for an encore. Right. So you want to be side stage when Chuck comes off stage to see that happen. It's a moment in history. So I stood on the dressing room side. Chuck exited via the other side. Right, yeah. So I had to run around the back of the curtain. And by the time I got there, Chuck was just coming off the stage. I'm standing there in my monkey suit, and I said to him, Chuck, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. He takes off his guitar and he hands it to me. Right. Well, now, and then Chuck walked away and the band walked away, right? Yeah. And I thought, well, what do I do with this? And I looked at the guitar and in the pick, in the strings was one of his picks with a little picture of Chuck on it. Yeah. So I took out my phone and I took a picture, expecting at any moment that someone will come and wrestle this guitar off me. But next thing is just me standing there with the roadie. And he was a local guy who had hired them their amplifiers and stuff. And he said, give me that. I can take it up to the dressing room. I said, I'm thinking, there's a possibility that he actually meant me to have this. Exactly, yeah. And if there's that possibility, well, it would be rude to hand it back. Of course. And far be it from me to insult Mr. Berry. So I said, no, it's okay, I'll take it up. So I went up the back of the waterfront. Well, that place is like a maze. I couldn't find the dressing room. I came back downstairs. The roadie had gone. The room was empty. I walked through backstage area. I set the guitar on the bench where the roadie had been, and I thought, if I leave that there, I'm the last guy with it. If it goes missing, I'm to blame. Exactly. So I went round with the guitar to the security point. There was no one there. So I walked past that point to the next security point. There's no one there. And I go through the next set of double doors and now I'm into the foyer, right? And there's a few hundred people there. They're standing, my brother's selling CDs. We sold 113 CDs that night, which was amazing. And I went and joined my brother and people saw the guitar. So I took the pick out, for safekeeping and people began to paw at the guitar. And so I set it under our merch table and, on a cardboard box and just put the cover over it and continued to sell CDs. And the whole time I can feel my phone in my back pocket buzzing like crazy, but I'm busy signing CDs and all that crap. And next thing I know, eventually it got so annoying, I just pulled the phone out and handed it to my brother. Says, can you take that while I'm signing these? And he hands me the phone and I hear the road manager from the Waterfront Hall, beep, 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 guitar, beep, 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 beep. And I thought, oops, closed the phone, put it in my pocket, and continued to sell CDs. Next thing, there's a tap on my shoulder. I looked around, there's a bouncer. Yeah. Where's the guitar? So, of course, it looks very suspicious whenever I lift the cover and pull out said guitar. And of course it looks like I'm trying to plank the thing, right? As they would say when I was growing up in the Braniel estate. And so they took the guitar away, but the person in charge of the Waterfront before the show had asked me to keep him a CD. Right. So I kept him this copy of Sugar Queen, which these days is on. And at the end of the show, I walked over and I handed him the CD and I said, there you go, we kept that one for you. And he said, well, we didn't know when we booked you that we were booking a thief. So I was branded a thief, even though I was just like the victim's circumstance, Your Honour, and that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it.
Exactly. Just looking after Chuck Berry's guitar. Wow, what a story. I mean, that's a rock and roll story.
Well, yeah, it's one of them stories, true story. People don't believe it, but that's what happened.
But I have to say, the whole experience was just gorgeous. I think because a lot of the stars that I was working with, they'd earned their stripes, they'd won their Oscars or their Emmys or their Tonys, or they were the biggest movie stars around, and there was no ego involved. They wanted you to shine. They wanted you to be the best that you could be, to feel confident. They knew that the people that weren't as known were really nervous to be working with them, myself included. And they just felt like a family that, you know, that were the best of the best, that had your back. And it was gorgeous. And Richard, I think it starts at the top, doesn't it? Any team environment, it starts at the top. And it was his directing debut. I think he was a bit nervous about it, but he'd written this beautiful script. And it kind of like filtered down from him, really.
Now, Alan Rickman, of course, was in the cast, and he was someone that was very close to you. He gave you some great advice, didn't he?
Because my confidence being at an all-time low, I was literally holding the script and shaking. And I was trying not to, but no matter what I did, I was shaking. And he sort of nudged me under the table with his leg, and he said to me, you know, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm so nervous, Alan. I just don't think I can do this. I just don't think I'm going to get my words out. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And he said, you know what? I said, what? He said, we're all nervous, darling. We're just acting like we're not. He said, act like you're not nervous. Act like you're confident, and it will happen. And the actress in me just kicked in, and it was the best advice he could have given me. And he gave me a little wink and a smile, and he was just delightful. And when I finished reading, he smiled at me and kind of like gave me, you know, that was a perfect gesture. And we were such great friends throughout filming, through the premieres. You know, he had my back. He was lovely.
By the way, never have a stylist. He got us a stylist. Honestly, the stuff he put me in, I didn't want to come out the wardrobe.
But I remember those original photographs because they went into Smash Hits magazine.
Yes.
And when you think about that at the time, you guys had done it just before boy bands became big. So you were kind of the template, I think.
I hated the idea, but later on everyone was, you know, it was like, you know, boy band. No, I'm a grown man, you know. I write songs, you know. But the thing was, I'd succumbed to this idea of the funniest thing is, Simon actually wanted us to do it in falsetto. Right. Can you imagine? I mean, not only do I not want to do a cover version, so we're in the studio, Nigel Wright, who'd been in the band Shack Attack in the 80s. Nigel was producer, and we turned up on a Saturday morning to record it, because Simon, you know, didn't turn up till lunchtime, you know, turned up in the Porsche, you know, and he walked in and said, well, darlings, let me hear the song, you know. So we're sitting in the studio, and of course, Paul and I are standing there like two eager beavers. Yeah. So Nigel puts it on, because we'd recorded in the morning. We were chuffed as little acorns. Yeah. He played it, and he said, I've got an idea. Well, as soon as Simon says he's an idea, your heart's pumping like this, because you think, what is it now? What is he going to do? And he said, I'd like you to sing it in falsetto. Well, if you'd seen my face, I was like... There was two F's coming, and it wasn't just falsetto.
Exactly, yes,
you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You have got to be joking." Yeah. So and he said no, and I thought, we've just signed this deal. He's put loads of money into the group. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. So we went back into the booth, and I said to Paul, I made sure the mic was off, and I said, "We're going to have to really be clever here. Yeah. We're gonna have to look like we really want to do it, and we're cooperating, but we're going to have to do the worst falsetto ever." I said, don't look at me, because I'll be on the floor laughing. I won't look at you. Yeah. So the song, you know, so we're like, let's make it look like we really want to do this, but we'll do it really badly. So the music came on, 10, da 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 da. Well, I've got the first few lines. So I'm going to back off the mic a little bit, because I think I'm going to do the song. Oh, so the beat comes on, and I'm slightly looking off, and I go, you set my lips on fire, you want the key to my heart. And we carried on. The whole 3/4 of the way through the song, there was cats at the door. What was worse was Simon let it go on. So in my mind, I'm thinking, he likes this. He actually thinks this is good. I'm doomed. Yes. Not only am I doing a cover version, I'm going to have to spend the next 5 years singing falsetto. Anyway, 3/4 of the song, and of course the middle 8 comes. Da, 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 and we just suddenly hear this. And it's Simon, and he bangs on the desk. Yeah. And we look up, and of course, by that time, I think I must have clenched my fist so much not to laugh. Yeah. So I turned, and we both looked through the glass, and he just went... like this. And we thought, this is it, he's going to dump us now,
Yeah.
you know? We'd already turned CBS down, we couldn't go crawling back.
No, exactly.
So we walk in and he's like this. And it was like an eternity.
Yeah.
It was like an eternity. It's like standing in front of the headmaster, you know? And suddenly he burst into a big grin. He started, I mean, Simon and grinning, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when he grins now, you've got to do this, bless him. But in those days, his teeth weren't quite as white. So he said, he did an amazing grin and he went, boys, I think you were right. Darlings, you were right.
Yeah.
And we just went back in the studio, finished the choruses off. And Bob's Your Uncle, thank God. Because, you know, cover version and falsetto.
Yeah, exactly,
Don't get me
yes.
wrong. I love the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the Bee Gees.
You don't want to be the... All right. Well, do you remember me? Number 1 on the Heritage
Please
chart.
vote on the Heritage chart.
They've got to keep voting. Congratulations on that. Daniel, thank you so much for coming to Belfast. It's been amazing.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Good to see you. Thank you. I'm going to take you back to the year 1977, which of course was a very good year for you, all thanks to a song that you're never going to get away from. The song we're talking about is Lucky Stars.
You know what? I'm proud of that song, and even though it gets teased in some quarters, you know, when I wrote it, I was listening to a lot of country music on the radio. And in those days, there were really not a lot of pop duets. But there has always been a long tradition of duets in country music. So in some ways, Lucky Stars was kind of my pop version of a country duet, filled with all the angst of country music, you know, the squabbling and the jealousy and finally the kissing and making up. And because it tells a story that I think is familiar to almost every couple. And I think that's why people embraced it the way they did and relate to it as they do.
And was Lisa a real person?
No, that's not the question, Robin. The question is, did we really just have lunch?
Now, what about the female vocal on the track as well, Denise Marza? Because there's always been a kind of mystery around her, hasn't there?
Well, that's not my fault. It was owing down to the idiocy of my ridiculous record label. They didn't even want that record on the album. They said, Dean, you're a solo artist. What do you want to duet for? And I had to argue with them. I said, look, you know, it's a nice song. People are going to like it. And they relented. But indicative of their dismissal and their attitude towards the record, they left Denise's name off of the single. She was always on the album. And she did become known as the Mystery Lady. And it's a real shame because she's got one of the greatest voices in pop music. And Denise still writes and records. You know, listeners can find her if you Google her.
Always good to see Dean Friedman whenever he's back in Belfast. In fact, he plays the OEM Music Centre on the 23rd of April. Now, still to come on the best of Robin Elliott tonight, I'll be chatting to the frontman from the legendary punk band The Outcasts. Greg Cowan is going to be with us. Actress Cindy O'Callaghan, who starred in the iconic children's movie Bedknobs and Broomsticks, is going to be sharing her memories of appearing in that film. And the legendary star from the 1960s, Gary Puckett, is going to be telling us all about his big hit, Young Girl. But before that, let's have some live music. And it was great to have the 19th Street Band live in the NVTV studios last year. They're coming back to Belfast. They play the Empire on the 5th of August this year as well. So here are the fabulous 19th Street Band.
This is a song called I Just Had to Say. Well, I've been catching flack like a snowman's land. You keep it coming back with a helping hand, like I'm off to a flame. How they play that game? Well, I'm just trying to breathe. But tell me what's your name? 'Cause I've got the rhymes, you got the moves. It could be so sublime, like a new pair of shoes, like a king with the queen, trying to live the dream. They got the milk with the honey, you know what I mean. You
You are so beautiful in every way, unforgettable. I just had to say it. But if you give me a smile, I can tell you the joke. We can stay for a while, we can go for broke. Hit that road with the travel show. We got the Delta lady down in Muscle Shoal. Big ball of fire, pie in the sky. I couldn't get much higher if I learned how to fly.
Well, I can sing you a song
all the way from Hong Kong. I can give you the key, but it wouldn't be wrong. You are so beautiful in every way, unforgettable. I just had to say it. You are so beautiful in every way, unforgettable. I just had to say, well, if you tell me a story, I can give you my word. We can go for glory and be so absurd. Just to walk in the park sure looks good in the dark. You gotta jump right in when the moment sparks. Big ball of fire, pie in the sky. I couldn't get much higher if I learned how to fly. Now I'm walking on air, just taking it in before it all slips away. And I just had to say, you are so beautiful in every way, unforgettable. I just had to say one more. You are so beautiful in every way, unforgettable. I just had to say,
About some of the things in the film, like the flying bed, did that actually happen?
The flying bed did and didn't happen.
Okay.
It was set up so that we really were high up in the studio. You can imagine how tall a studio ceiling is. So we were sort of craned up to the bed and then strapped in so that we were safe. But Roy, who played the little lad on it, was, because he's only 6 or 7, right? He's messing around. We were like, "Oh, don't be moving," right? Because the bed would move, but it was on a hydraulic, so it would do it when they forced it. But he was forcing it because he thought it was funny until we gave him the eye. Don't be doing that. So it was, it was very exciting, but it was quite scary. We were really, really high up.
Oh, wow, okay. So what about the two guys then who played your brothers? You went on to do more acting. Whatever happened to them?
Well, Ian, which was my older brother in the film, he always wanted to be a train driver. That was his passion, and he was a bit geeky about trains. And I have to tell you, he is now a train driver. Wow. And the other day, I was in London, I was going to get the overground. There was Ian driving my train. I thought that was so exciting. It was really, yeah, they didn't really want to act. They were in a sort of a local drama group like I was in, and Roy, the youngest boy, went on to be a very successful entrepreneur in IT. He's got the big house, and he's very successful. Yeah. And he was a smart cookie, right? At 6, he knew everybody's lines. I don't think David Tomlinson was very happy with him when, he didn't come in with a line, and then Roy was like, you forgot your line. He was like, so it didn't go. But he was 6, right? And he did know everybody's lines.
Brilliant. And what about a song like Young Girl that has lasted the test of time? When you first went into the studio to record that song, did you realize how big it was going to become?
No, did not. But, we were now riding the crest of the wave that Woman had created. So we were feeling good about things, and I thought that it was a good song, that it was singable, that it was fun. It's been a misunderstood song for many years, or I don't know if it's just misunderstood or people just wanting to look in and find the dark side of it, but the guy in the song is honorable, and he said, hey, you let me know that you were old enough to give me love, but it's not the truth, so you got to go away, but no, I didn't realize that I'd be out here at this age, and I'm glad to be doing it, because what else would I do?
You guys are heading out on what I suppose you could call a world tour, aren't you?
Yes, you could call it a world tour, because it is a world tour, Robin. For the first time in my life, we're going to have T-shirts, the Outcast World Tour.
Oh, wow.
It's gone bizarre.
Yeah.
We knew anyway, we were going to Canada for the first time. Then we were going to Sweden for the first time. We were going to Portugal for the first time. We always do France, Germany, regular ones, Switzerland. Then Japan came back.
I want to see an Outcast Japanese gig.
Well, we've
really
already
want
done
to see
it.
that.
You have not. The last time that we went, we really had no idea what we were going to. We knew that all sort of music's big in Japan. There seems to be a place for everything.
Yes, yeah.
We knew punk was still quite big. We didn't know there was a section of Japanese fans who specialised in Northern Ireland punk.
Wow.
How bizarre.
And has that always been there, or has that come off the back of Good Vibrations?
The film.
Yeah.
The film. When we played in Tokyo especially, we did 3 gigs in Tokyo, because Tokyo's so big.
Yeah.
And these were sizable venues. Some of the other towns, Osaka, they weren't massive venues, but yet they'd be so bunged that the Japanese are so polite, they would let people in, and then people would go out and let other people in. But in each case, they showed the movie.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes maybe they show the movie before and show the movie afterwards. It's, who would have thought, it's been an amazing thing for us.
And of course, Good Vibrations, the stage show, is coming back as well, which again, you must be picking up gigs in the back of that.
Well, it is the gift that keeps on giving. Number one, it's a fantastic play.
Yeah.
I like the film, but I think the plays, not just because there's more of me in it, or my character in it. It goes back to the Opera House in May, and from there it goes to New York.
Wow.
Now, there is talk that we might be going some New York shows to back that, which is another one of the bucket list, that you want to do.
Yeah.
I hope so, but there's also part of me going, there's enough gigs this year that, it takes us a wee while to recover, or me, not so much the rest of them.
So that's nearly all we have time for on the best of Robin Elliott tonight. We're going to leave you with a live tune from singer-songwriter Joby Fox. Of course, he was part of Energy Orchard back in the 1990s alongside the late great Beth Kennedy. And of course, Joby's had a fabulous solo career as well. He's going to be back in Belfast on the 6th of May with a special gig at the Sunflower Bar as part of this year's Cathedral Quarter Arts Festival. Good to have your company on the show tonight. We'll see you back same time next week. And to play us out, here is Joby Fox. See you next week. Bye-bye.
I love doing this song, particularly when I'm here in Belfast, back to Belfast and doing the gigs and all the rest of it. And this song is called Don't Come to My Rescue. And it's a song about Robert Emmett, the great Irishman who come from the Protestant tradition. And I remember as I was 14 reading about him, and I remember being so impressed by that you know, he loved Ireland, and you know, as I say, he came from the Protestant tradition. But as the story unfolds with Emmett, he kind of romanticized revolution, you know, and it cost him his life, you know. And as a 14-year-old boy, I remember thinking, if I have a son, I'm going to call him Emmett.
Yeah.
And as a poignant reminder that never to be sectarian and never treat anybody just as a religion, and always treat everybody as an individual and respect their views in life and all of that. And so I named him Emmett. I have a 40-year-old son called Emmett Fox, and that's where you know, there's a bit of a connection there, you know. So that the song's about Robert Emmett, and Robert Emmett was a lover, you know, really.
Yeah.
But he just got mixed up with things, you know.
Exactly, yeah,
He just got mixed up, and yeah, it's a bit tragic and all of that, but beautiful at the same time.
Well, we'll hear the song now, but in the meantime, Joby, it's always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
Oh, I'm leaving tomorrow, going to ground. Thomas Street's quiet, I still hear the sound of my heart. My heart is beating. Oh, I'll sleep in the morning, travel by dark, from Marshall Street Lane, where we lit the spark. Oh, I love you, and I forgive you. Oh, I don't come to my rescue. Oh, I love you. The voice in our heads tore us apart. The voice in our heads made stones of our hearts. My days are numbered, I shall part. A terrible beauty is born. War is so cruel, cold and obscene. I'll never go back to where I've been. Oh, I love you, but I long to be free. Oh, I don't come to my rescue. Oh, I love you. The voice in our heads tore us apart. The voice in our heads made stones of our hearts. My days are numbered, I shall part. A terrible beauty, a terrible beauty, a terrible beauty is born.